Alright guys, welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the election coverage in which me and Tactical Monkey are actually going to be watching over tonight's elections in the United States. Tonight we are looking at several elections that are going on. We are now getting results from North Carolina, West Virginia, and Ohio. Basically what is going on, we are now seeing the election culminate into which candidates are going to actually be put forth in the election. I'm going to go ahead and switch on to our election coverage, and the live stream has now begun. Welcome to the live stream, everyone. So what we are looking at tonight is who is going to be going forth in the general election in the United States this November. So I am currently going to wait for Tactical Monkey to get into the live stream. However, so what we are looking at now is the election. So from what we are looking at now, the incumbent in the U.S. Senate race for Ohio is Sherrod Brown. They are going to be uncontested in the Democratic race. However, in the Republican primary for the election for the U.S. Senate in the state of Ohio, James B. Renacci is currently winning by a very healthy margin, 47.3%. However, you need 51 to actually win the election. Mike Gibbons is following him, 31.5%. Melissa Atkinson is following him, 12.9%. So you can see here, Mike Gibbons is actually winning Franklin County, which is the hold place, which is the county which Columbus is in, the capital of Ohio. Which another race I'm actually concentrating on tonight is actually going to be the gubernatorial race in the state of Ohio. So from what we're looking at, both candidates in the Democratic and Republican primaries are actually leading their parties 63 to 6 and 65% respectively. So in November, it looks like the gubernatorial race in the state of Ohio is actually going to be against between Richard Cordray and Mike DeWine. Mike DeWine is leading 73,000 votes to 38,000 votes against Mary Taylor, and then Richard Cordray is leading against Dennis Kucinich, whatever. 63.5% to 22.9%. The current governor of the state of Ohio is John Kasich. He was a 2016 Republican candidate. He tried to win the nomination for the Republican Party against Donald Trump. He was the number 3. He was in 3rd place in the Republican primary, and he unfortunately did not lose. He did win his own state of Ohio. However, he did not win the election to become the Republican nominee for the 2016 election. Another race we are concentrating on tonight is actually going to be the West Virginia primary. Dalton, I am actually going to get to your question in a second. However, I am just going over a general synopsis of what is going on tonight. Another race we are concentrating on tonight, guys, is going to be the U.S. Senate race in the state of West Virginia. Joe Manchin is leading his party's nomination process. He is the incumbent senator in the state of West Virginia. He is winning 67.7% to 32.3% against Paula Schwerigan. Patrick Morsey is winning 36.2% to against Evan Jenkins' 25.7%. However, Don Blankenship is actually getting 22.6% of the vote. Don Blankenship is the person who actually made that China people comment several days ago in one of his commercial ads that he tried to use against Mitch McConnell, I believe. However, that is pretty surprising. However, that is only less than 1% of the vote. That is 1,400 votes. With only 6,200 cast so far. So what we are going to be looking tonight is whether Don Blankenship's vote margin is actually going to hurt the election for anyone, and if no one reaches above 50% in any of these primaries, by the way, any of these primaries, they are unfortunately not going to be able to receive any nomination, and are going to have to schedule a runoff election where the top two candidates will face off against each other. So from what it looks like, if this was the final election result right now, Patrick Morsey and Evan Jenkins would actually go into a runoff election. However, this is only, again, less than 1% of the votes, so we still have a lot of vote to go through. North Carolina, we have results coming in from North Carolina. U.S. House District 1, both were uncontested, so we are now seeing that House District 1 has been called for J.K. Butterfield and Roger Ellison, respectively. House District 2, another one I am actually concentrating on, is going to be House District 5. D.D. Adams is winning 53.3% against Jenny Marshall's 46.7%. I actually have a friend, Backstar, who actually lives in House District 5 of North Carolina. Virginia Fox is winning her primary 80.8% to 13.9%. There's a lot of House elections. I do not believe, no, there is not a gubernatorial election going on in North Carolina this year. So we are still seeing results coming in from West Virginia. Don Blankenship is getting 22.5% of the vote. That is, again, person I really want to concentrate on in tonight's election. Dalton, as for your question, do you think there will be a blue wave in November? Honestly, for those who always say that there's going to be a blue wave, usually those people use that to try and get their voters out there, because especially in midterm elections, it's very difficult for people to actually get people out to vote. The turnout for the 2014 midterm election, which is the last midterm election that was actually held in the United States, was 30%, about like 36%, I believe. So it's very difficult to get your voters out there, but whenever you energize your voters and stuff like that, it's pretty easy to get them out there. However, for this election, I do believe there's going to be a considerable amount of Democrats that are actually going to be able to come out and vote. As for the Republicans, they're going to have a difficulty trying to energize their voters. However, with new gun legislation that is actually coming out against guns and stuff like that, which was a pivotal thing that actually got Republicans to come out during the Obama administration, there is actually a lot of energized status on both sides for the Republicans and the Democrats. So I don't think it's going to be a blue wave. However, I do believe the Democrats are going to be making some gains. I think the House is in danger, but I think the Senate is safe for the Republicans. But the House of Representatives is going to be in danger of flipping toward the Democratic control. And if that happens, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's not going to be able to get passed. Donald Trump's wall is definitely not going to get past a democratically controlled Congress. So that is my take on it. I don't think it's going to be a blue wave. A blue wave would be a 10% shift in the current numbers of what we have right now. 10-15% shift. They usually call things whenever a house flips. Whenever that happens, they usually call that a wave. It does look like Donald Blankenship's vote share actually dropped by about 1%. So we have Robert White Joe Manchin is probably the worst Democrat in the Democratic Party. He's more conservative than liberal. He is bought and owned by corporations, as if all of them are, but he is the worst. And Jonathan, for your question, this is just election coverage. So I'm concentrating on covering the election results coming out of North Carolina, West Virginia, Indiana, and Ohio. Which actually, it does look like Indiana is going to be going into a runoff election for the U.S. Senate. However, Joe Donnelly has been called to be the winner, even though he is uncontested. However, something that is very interesting, Mike Pence's brother, Greg Pence, has actually won by 65.8% of the vote. So he is going to be going off to represent House District 6, Indiana 6. So Greg Pence, the older brother of Vice President Mike Pence, is going to be winning the election tonight. However, Mike Braun and Todd Rokita are going to be possibly going into a runoff election. This is with 44% of the vote in. So that is very unfortunate for tonight, so they will be scheduling a runoff election if the numbers stay the same, which they have been ever since the election results started coming in. North Carolina. Again, a race I'm going to be concentrating on is the Democratic race. The election results in North Carolina for House District 5 are actually staying the same, so that is something I really want to concentrate on. Looks like my page is actually acting a little slow. Guys, I'm going to actually be right back, so I'm going to leave it here for you guys. So I will be right back, and I will see you guys in a minute. Steven Jimenez, do you think Republicans can win in West Virginia and Indiana? I do think that it is possible that the Republicans and Democrats can actually win in those states. Those are very conservative states. However, with a possible incoming blue wave, I think it's going to be difficult. However, if the Republicans can try to get their voters to actually turn out, and whenever Republican voters actually can turn out, they can win elections, just like they did in 2016. With that, I will be right back, guys, and I will see you guys in about a minute. Alright guys, I am back. Sorry for that. Tactical Monkey, are you with us? Hello, Tactical Monkey. Yo, 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 yo. No, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Whoa! Alright, I am going to switch back to our election coverage. Let's go ahead and get the scene back. And so let's go ahead and see what the numbers are right now. I'm looking at North Carolina right now. Very, very overwhelming results in the gubernatorial race for the state of Ohio. Okay, so I think my thing is running a little slow, so I may have to close out a couple of these. Okay, let's go back to West Virginia. Oh yeah, I do have you muted. I just realized that. Alright, sorry, can you hear me, Tactical Monkey?
Alright, I'm here. You guys hear me?
Hell yeah, I can hear you. I turned your volume up so everyone else could hear you.
Sounds good.
Alright, so what we have right now, we are covering the West Virginia election. Patrick Morrisey is actually winning by 37.5% of the vote. However, Don Blankenship is actually still getting away with 20% of the vote. So Don Blankenship's vote margin actually might be able to put this into a runoff election.
Yeah, and we have a little bit of a personal thing over here with Trump and him, huh?
Mm-hmm.
See, they, you know, I feel like that might have an influence on his vote, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think it already did. I think Don Blankenship would have been in second place. Dalton right now is saying, do you think enough Democrats could abandon Manchin, which would allow for the Republicans to win the Senate seat, considering his primary, he's getting below average results. So, I don't think I'm going to be able to say something about that, because whenever I usually try to see something like that, usually what I look at is the total amount of votes that both primaries actually got. So what you see right now, 8,800 votes for the Republican primary and 11,700 for the Democratic primary. So I think the Democrats would still be able to hold on to that. However, it all depends on whether this election goes into a runoff. Jaxius is actually asking about Ohio. Sherrod Brown is the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate. However, James B. Renichi is actually nearing his 50% need for the Republican nomination, but he is being taken down by Mike Gibbons and Melissa Atkinson, who has 32% of the vote and 13% of the vote, respectively. The governor race, which I am actually covering and wanting to concentrate on, Richard Cordray is winning by 63.5% of the vote. Mike DeWine is actually winning by 65.5% of the vote. Very, very good numbers for both of those candidates right now. So it is definitely that is only 1% of the vote in, with 119,000 votes for the Republicans and 135,000 votes for the Democrats, respectively. So with if the numbers stay like that, then it's definitely going to be a face-off in November between Cordray and DeWine. So that is a race that is going to be that should actually be concentrated on, because John Kasich actually cannot run for a third term. Tactical Monkey, what do you want?
This is a very, very important time, right? I mean, this is, you know, we have a lot on the line over here. We have the next few years, you know, this really determines whether we're going to have a lot of laws passed or not. If the Democrats take the House, I feel like we're going to have a lot of problems for Trump, for his administration, for them to get a lot of things passed and a lot of things done.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things. Honestly, I think that the House is actually in danger of falling to the Democrats. And I'm not trying to be biased. I'm not trying to say, well, the Republicans need to keep the Senate because this, and this. I'm trying to be completely as unbiased as possible right now. But I'm talking about the Republicans keeping the House, as in they are the majority right now. So anyone who thinks that I'm trying to be biased toward the Republicans, I am not.
No, absolutely.
So,
and
basically,
another thing that I see happening is I see a lot of voters coming out, more than usual for midterms at least, because we seen this very successful campaign from the Trump administration, and I feel like also a lot of people who voted for him and who were expecting a lot of things, which he came through on a lot of promises. However, I feel like it would drive a lot of people who normally wouldn't come out to vote to actually go out there and put their votes in, from both sides, especially from the Democrat sides.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very, this is pretty much their shot to really oppose this administration and do what they can to put in their views.
So, I don't know. So Jaxius is actually giving us a little bit of insider knowledge. He's saying that Ohio is actually turning very liberal very fast. Schools in Ohio, at least in southern Ohio, it's making the kids Democrat. I'm not gonna play onto that. Because usually people always say, well, the schools are trying to make our kids dirty liberals. I mean, I've heard people say that. I'm not gonna entertain that kind of idea, but at the same time, my take on that is actually that things may look liberal to you, but sometimes, the truth is what it is. It's not trying to be a liberal or conservative. To try to make things and divide things by politics is also a very dangerous thing to say. Well, the liberals are trying to do this, and this, but sometimes, I mean, they make a good sense. Republicans do make good sense in several things too. I'm not trying to say that you should believe in one because they say this and the other because they say that, but if you listen and if you learn, it's something that you can actually have fun with.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Okay, so
also, I think it's a matter of compromise on both sides. And
yeah, House District 5 in North Carolina. This is actually Backstar's district. The incumbent Virginia Fox is winning by 81% of the vote. However, the Democrats actually tied up. This is with 28% of the vote in. That is 10,900 votes in. Almost 11,000 votes have been cast for the Democratic primary, and there is almost a 50-50 split. So it may go... Actually, it wouldn't even go into a runoff. I think they're just going to go off of a... Hey, maybe. I mean, Jaxius, you can just email me. Go ahead. Alright, it looks like the Senate primary could actually go into a runoff. Don Blankenship, his vote margin is actually shrinking and going up, and it's going up and down, but I think Don Blankenship's vote margin could actually pull the Republican primary into a runoff. Jackson County is actually going for Don Blankenship, while Charleston County has actually not been, or actually not Charleston County, it's Kanawha County, which is the home county of Charleston, which is the capital of West Virginia. No results have been coming out of those precincts as of yet. However, Joe Manchin has actually been called as the winner for the Republican or the Democratic primary in West Virginia. Okay, so CNN is finally putting some results up. Yeah, they're really wanting to concentrate on the West Virginia race. Dalton is saying Ohio is becoming more conservative, as in the gubernatorial, presidential, and congressional and other elections, Republicans are beating their Democratic opponents by large margins. Well, the Democratic victory margin is actually falling. That is actually what Dalton is saying. Alright, so that is CNN results. But they are only covering West Virginia. They're not going to be as much help. James Renacci in Ohio for the U.S. Senate Republican primary. Again, 45% of the vote is going toward Renacci. However, he is not able to... If he's not able to actually do that, then he's going to have to go into a runoff election with Mike Gibbons. However, once more of the vote comes in, once about 15 to maybe 30 to 50% of the vote starts coming in, we're really going to figure out a winner from that. Okay, so let's go back to North Carolina. Let's see what's going on in North Carolina 5. 50.5% of the vote in North Carolina 5 is going toward D.D. Adams. Tactical Monk, are you still there? Probably not.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Then it's okay. Yeah, we're becoming more conservative, but the school are pushing for the Democrats. Again, I think it's just how you're perceiving it. You know, how you perceive things is how news gets out there. And I mean, I don't live in Ohio. I don't live anywhere near Ohio, so I'm not able to do that. And to say that Democrats are trying to influence the kids, I mean, for one, I think there's always going to be someone influencing you. You're always going to be influenced by your parents, your school, your teachers, your peers. Everyone's going to be influencing you, so it's equal, honestly. By the way, what is going on, Wildest Gamer? Welcome to the live stream.
Hello, hello.
I actually need to change.
Right, and I also think you could see that from both sides, really. You see that from the Republican side, you see that from the Democratic side. I mean, it's I feel like it's a pretty level playing field when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's just... I don't know. People always say, well, this is trying to happen, this is trying to happen. Robert White says, according to MSNBC, there's a massive worry that Russia might influence these elections. I don't believe it, though. There's no proof they even did anything in the 2016 election. Russia thing is bullshit, in my opinion. Maybe Backstar is a Russian bot. Maybe he is. Maybe he is.
Well, I got some news for you guys. So, I'm actually a Russian, and I'm not that evil, I think.
Alright, sorry about that. I have to mute my mic so you don't hear me chewing in the mic, because I was actually cooking dinner. So, so let's see what else is going on. Indiana races is really actually starting to close up. It does look like that Mike Braun and Luke Messer are actually going to be going into a runoff election. House District 1, Peter, the incumbent for the Democratic Party in that district, is going to be safely representing that district for the Democratic Party. However, wow, in the Republican primary for House District 1 in Indiana, 28.3% is actually going to Mark Leva. However, 20% is going toward his opponent, Roseanne Ivanovich, and Nicholas Papas actually has 19% of the vote. However, another 31.9% of the vote is actually going to other candidates. So, the Republican primary in Indiana 1 is probably going to be going into a runoff election. That is what I can tell so far, with 4% of the vote in. Indiana 2, Mel Hall is fighting for his lead, or their lead, against Pat Hackett. Possible runoff election with 38% of the vote in that area. However, for the Republican, the incumbent Jackie Walorski is actually going to be comfortable with her 78.5% vote. Indiana 3, Jim Banks is going to be uncontested this election cycle for the primary. However, Courtney Trich has been called with 78.5% of the vote in Indiana 3. Indiana 4, same situation for both parties. Both of them are probably going to be going into runoff elections. Suzanne Brooks is uncontested in Indiana 5, with Dee Thornton winning with 51.9% of the vote. However, that is only with 50% of the vote in. However, that is actually, if it stays right there, then she's going to be representing the Democratic Party against Suzanne Brooks. Indiana 6, another big race and big win for the Republican Party. Greg Pence, the older brother of Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, Greg Pence is going to be representing the Republicans in the race for Indiana 6, with 65.8% of the vote is going toward him. So that is a very good news for Greg Pence, and that is very good news for Mike Pence. Indiana 7, Andre Carson is going to be the incumbent. However, he's going to be representing that and everything else. And then we have state and house elections, state Senate elections, and state house elections. No other big news coming out of Indiana at this time. With you guys coming out and rooting for Blankenship, I'm going to go ahead and start going back to our West Virginia coverage. Patrick Morsey is leading with 33.8% of the vote. However, Evan Jenkins is actually leading with 27.5% of the vote. But Don Blankenship has actually increased his vote margin by 2 points. 22.1% of the vote is going toward Don Blankenship, even with his China people comment, which I think is one of the most retarded things I've ever heard anyone say. Joe Manchin is still winning with nearly 70% of the vote in the Democratic primary, however. I know I talk a lot. 34.5% of the vote is still going to Morsey. It does look like the Republican primary for the U.S. Senate is going to be going to a possible runoff. Blankenship should be anointed to the position of dictator after Trump's second term. Blankenship 2020. Oh god. I think they're ironically supporting Blankenship right here. Blankenship from inmate to candidate, LOL.
And that's a very interesting story right there. I think it might have even gave him a couple of votes.
Alright. Wow, this election music has actually been playing for an hour. Well, actually 41 minutes. PoliticsGaming, tell us, if Don Blankenship walked up to you, would you bow down to him in 1 second or 2 seconds? I would never bow down to him. He's probably just going to call me a China people. Lonely Spaceman is saying, Blankenship for God Emperor.
So we also had another big announcement today. On the
Oh,
Iran
yeah,
deal.
very, very big announcement on that. For those who don't know, President Trump actually pulled out of the Iran deal, and this deal was actually created in 2015 by then President Barack Obama to try to make peace with Iran. However, President Trump did say on the campaign trail during the 2016 election that it was a bad deal for the United States and a bad deal for the West. So he ended up breaking the deal, and now the United States will be withdrawing from that deal. My opinion on it, I honestly think you don't give money to your enemies, especially ones that literally literally say like death to America and stuff like that, and that's what Obama kind of did. He did give Iran like billions of dollars. Dalton's making me dead. What about you, Tactical Monkey? What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I mean, look, this is obviously a flawed deal. We had nothing to gain out of it. It was clearly a way of delaying time and solving the issue briefly for a very short period of time. Because, I mean, if you look into the specifics of the deal, it was it really is a laughable deal for the United States to make, especially towards a regime that, let's not forget, we had a few sailors at that time, a few Navy personnel who were captured by the Iranian regime and were actually held for over a week, if I'm not mistaken, before they were released. So this isn't, I mean, we had very strong sanctions on them before the deal was struck, and it was working. They were in a lot of trouble, and this deal released billions of dollars to them, gave them the opportunity to continue doing what they were doing as far as developing the nuclear bomb. And it's I believe that he made the right decision. Now, as far as the consequences for this decision, that's already, we'll see what happens, because they are also in a very sticky situation now.
Yeah, I actually did a little bit of research to actually pull up the text on Wikipedia for the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or else known as the Iran Nuclear Deal. That is the official name for the Iran Nuclear Deal. However, yeah, honestly, my opinion on that is actually literally because their goal was to destroy us, and they hate Israel. They hate the United States, and I'm not sitting here trying to say that Iran is bad. Iran's not bad. Like, they're looking out for their own interests, and they don't want to be pushed around by the United States. At the same time, whenever you have people saying that, I think it's good that you don't give them money, especially when then President Barack Obama literally gave Iran hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And he did that as a last-ditch effort because President Trump was elected on November 8th, 2016. And then so it was several days before he was actually inaugurated. Barack Obama actually signed off on a deal to give Iran hundreds of millions of dollars. Which apparently, and I actually did a little bit of research on this, and not just now, but this was actually days ago, but I remember this information. Apparently, the United States, and this is the reason why we gave them the money, is that the United States seized funds from Persia, from then Persia, before Or no, they seized it after the Islamic Republic was created. And honestly, we never owe money to them just because they say that we owe them the money. We shouldn't be sitting there saying, okay, well, Iran says this, so let's go ahead and give them hundreds of millions of dollars. And there's over $20 billion that's actually been seized from Iran ever since 1979, whenever the hostage crisis and then transition of Persia to the Islamic Republic actually happened. But at the same time, I don't think that we should give them money just literally because we owe it to them. Technically, we never even owe them money.
Right, and I mean, I feel like what happened was an embarrassment for the United States on the world scale, on the world stage, and I feel like it was the right move into the right direction. And clearly we see that diplomacy, the way that Trump is running it, has worked. I mean,
but at the same time, whenever you have people saying that, well, Trump is doing what he thinks is right, at the same time, and someone actually said this in the chat a little bit ago, they actually said that Iran hasn't broken the deal. So why should the United States pull out of the deal whenever the deal hasn't even been broken?
Right, well, I mean, that's another tricky thing. You have one administration that makes a deal, then the next administration comes in and finds that previous deal to be completely horrendous, and they make a move and they come out of that deal. Now, of course, that raises questions as in, you know, what are deals with the United States even worth? Are they only good for 4 to 8 years up until the next administration, or is it something that we can rely on, that we could count on? However, I feel like if that deal is a threat, and if that deal is just, you know, clearly the current administration perceives this deal as horrendous from the very beginning, and after the, I don't know if you guys don't know, we had Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, who actually gave a presentation of a massive amount of information that was taken out of Iran by Mossad, and in those files they revealed a lot of information that was concealed for a very long time, and as Trump quoted it, definitive proof that Iran has been violating this deal and that they have been doing things that they were not supposed to do. Therefore, I feel like it was the obligation of the president of these United States to act and to protect our allies and, of course, ourselves. I think it was the right thing to do. That's just my opinion on it.
I'm kind of mixed on it, honestly. Like, I'm not... And then we have S. Axel, who's in here saying, like, North Korea shouldn't trust the United States. They'll backstab them. Netanyahu also advocated for killing Saddam. Look it up. Saddam, are you talking about Saddam Hussein? Because Saddam Hussein was kind of committing a couple of crimes himself. I don't think any, you know, Saddam was a pretty bad dude.
Oh yeah. I mean, we have
Robert White. Where are you getting your proof that? Robert White, where are you getting your information that Saudi officials are in DC trying to get uranium for a nuclear program? Because that's not... I don't think that's right.
And another thing is that if this nuclear deal is bad, and if the Iranians are violating this nuclear deal, that inevitably will start off a arms race, a nuclear arms race in the Middle East.
Yeah, because everyone thinks that
two sides.
Everyone thinks that Saudi Arabia is going to go after their own nuclear program, and even Saudi Arabia has actually not ruled it out.
Yeah.
Well, Robert White, you tell me to look it up, but I don't know who your information is. I don't know if you're looking at CNN. I don't know if you're looking at Fox News. I don't know if you're looking at InfoWars. I mean, you tell me to look it up, but who are you telling me to look up? Like, I'm not gonna find any of that. S. Axel says, Netanyahu said killing Saddam would bring peace. It did not. Also, the United Nations found Iran in compliance. They detected no nuclear material of any of Iran's known testing sites. Hey, you said testing sites, so they do actually have them. They have those sites, so they want to build a bomb. Just kidding, I'm just memeing. So, I'm gonna restart that election music. Daddy Alex Jones is premier source of news. Yeah, totally. And by the way, I did see, Robert, you did say something about how, the Israelis were building a nuclear program. They've had nukes ever since the 70s. So, I don't know what you're talking about that. Anyway.
Speaking of Israel, we actually had breaking news coming out of the Golan Heights. That the Israeli officials have actually said the troops were on high alert for an attack in the area, and they found irregular activity within the Iranian troops in Syria, and they actually advised all citizens to be near a bomb shelter.
Where was that in?
In the Golan Heights.
Yeah, I actually, I actually saw a lot of that, going on, so it's, there is actually, currently bombings going on in Syria, being perpetrated by, Israel, so there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the Middle East right now.
Yeah, and clearly this all ticked off right after, Trump's announcement. I mean, we had irregular activity coming from the Iranian troops in Syria right after the announcement was made, and things have seemed to have escalated. And right now, we're actually seeing Israeli attacks near Damascus, as the Syrian TV is reporting. However, whether it's not confirmed yet.
It's, Israel's nuclear weapons, no one talks about that. Well, everyone knows that. Like, I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
And,
yeah, I mean, no one talks about Pakistani and Indian nuclear weapons. Whenever you talk about a nuclear weapons state, people always talk about the United States, Russia, France, and the United Kingdom. However, the ones that you always, like, never really talk about is,
and with India, it's funny that you mentioned that. I actually think a lot of people don't even know that India has those type of capabilities. I think it's more for, Pakistan.
Except the only difference about Israel, and I've always known this, and I always thought it was kind of shady of Israel to do this. I think it's just the deterrent. I don't. Maybe they
have no other way of survival. I mean, we see.
No. It's not even that. It's like it's a way to scare the other countries.
Of course.
They may not even have a nuclear weapons program. They may just be saying that to try and tout and say, we have nuclear weapons, so if you want to attack us, go ahead. Let me change the restrictions for the chat. Hang on. Trying to figure out. I'm gonna toggle timestamps for one.
And again, with Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia is actually in a very tough situation. We have Saudi Arabia as the leader of the Sunni Muslim world, which includes Bahrain, Kuwait, the Emirates, Oman, and Egypt to some extent. And then we have the Iranians and the Syrians with the Shia Muslim world, and they're clashing right now. And this is what we're seeing, these proxy wars all over the area, whether it's in Yemen, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in Iraq. and this is causing a lot of panic within these governments. And seeing as how Iran is working on a nuclear program, if these countries feel like the United States or other world powers, the United Nations is not sufficient in their resolve, and they can't help them, they can't, they can't contain Iran's nuclear program, then they, of course, in turn will go out there and they will try to start a nuclear program of their own. And that's a big danger that we have, that we're going to find ourselves in a nuclear arms race where every other country will want a nuclear deterrent. And to at some point that already doesn't become a deterrent no more when everybody has it. So it's a big issue that we see over here.
Yeah, and I don't know. Honestly, I honestly think it's a good idea that we pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, because I don't think it really serves the interests of the United States. I think it really just prioritizes, Iran, and really just says, okay, well, if you're a good boy, then we're gonna give you money. Like, it's literally just saying, like, and there was a clause in it in which it said that Iran was not required to disclose. My thing is acting so slow right now. I'm gonna close out of a couple things. So yeah, I mean, there was a couple things, and I honestly think that it just did not serve the United States' interest, and that's honestly one reason why I think it's a good idea that we may have pull it out of it. And Trump is not doing it because he doesn't like Iran, and he even said it in his speech. And if you're usually, whenever people say things and stuff like that, you have the power to really say the things that you feel, but not the facts. And I watched Trump's speech. I watched a couple snippets of it, but I watched the parts that were actually kind of broadcast. Yeah, and I mean, S actually just said it completely right, and I completely agree with him. Lots of misinformation about the Iran deal. Maybe some of the things I may be saying may be wrong, but that's not saying that Iran is saying the right things either. Because Iran, honestly, like, it's their word against ours. That's all it is.
And another thing that I think a lot of people are overlooking here is that, what is this? Him leaving the Iran deal. This is another campaign promise that he fulfilled. That's a lot. That's and that speaks volumes in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just, honestly, I don't think, and Trump even said it himself. Here, actually, I'll get it for Lonely Spaceman, because I know this. Okay, so... Okay, so we have PolitiFact right here. Karen Handel, who was the Republican candidate for the Georgia 6 primary, or not the primary, but she was actually for the Georgia 6 general election. She made a claim that nearly $2 billion in cash was flown over to Iran, money that the Obama administration admitted was being used for terrorists and to support further activities there. So, the Iran nuclear deal... Okay, so right here, Karen Handel's $2 billion comment. So the nuclear agreement actually had a clause in there that we were supposed to give them $1.7 billion a part of the agreement. The money was legally due to Iran. The country had paid America for military equipment. Okay, see, this is what I was talking about earlier. The money was actually owed to them because Iran bought military equipment from the United States in 1979. And then the Iranian Revolution came around, and then the hardware was never delivered. And then in 2016, many news organizations reported a delivery of $400 million of that $1.7 billion in cash. As part of that exchange, an unmarked cargo plane delivered the money after American officials were certain that 3 Americans held in Iran were on their way home. It was not known how the remaining $1.3 billion made its way to Iran. Given the isolation of Iran's banking system, it is possible that the payment was made in cash and flown to Iran, but neither Wheat nor Handelscraft could point to any report that said that definitely took place. So the money was given to Iran, and then, of course, you know, they say half true. They say Handel said the Obama administration admitted that nearly $2 billion was given to Iran. She is more specific than report supports. One way or another, the United States transferred $1.7 billion. As for what the administration admitted, Kerry said it was likely some portion of any money Iran received will go to its top security organization, and some of that money would end up advancing terrorism. So that is the point that I was making earlier, and that is the point that you don't give money to someone like that. And it definitely does not serve it, and it definitely does not serve the interests of the United States if we are apparently legally required to give money to a country that didn't exist, that we never gave the weapons to. We transferred the money to Persia. We gave them. We made the deal with Persia. We didn't make the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran.
It's a very good point.
Lonely Spaceman. So we owed them money and we paid them back. Money wasn't a part of the Iran deal, though. Yeah, it was. I mean, PolitiFact says it right here that, oh, wait, no, hang on. Value of Iran's foreign currency reserves at $100 billion. Cited $120 billion. Nuclear grade material. Okay. So let's see what's going on in the elections of what's going on tonight. West Virginia, it looks like the Republican primary is going to be going off into a runoff election. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Republican Senate primary in Ohio seems to be going into a runoff if the numbers stay the same as they are right now. Again, the election for governor looks like a very, very healthy Republican turnout in Ohio for the gubernatorial race. 204,000 for the Democrats and 250,000 actually for the Republicans. However, that is only with 19% of the vote. Daddy Blankenship won, right? No, he didn't.
He did not.
No, he's in third place. He's actually, like, killing the vote. Don Blankenship is actually getting away with 20.6% of the vote. He's actually, not going to be winning this. He's not even going to be able to participate in the runoff election, if that ends up being the case. So no, they're not going to be able to call anyone for that. Patrick Morsey is actually doing very healthy in the northern part of West Virginia. Evan Jenkins is actually doing very well in the southern part. Evan Jenkins is actually winning Kanawha County 31.2%. Patrick Morsey's 26.6%. However, Don Blankenship is actually getting 26% of the vote in Kanawha County, which is home to Charleston. Huntington is not reporting in. That is Cabell County. Wheeling County, or Ohio County, it's going 46% toward Patrick Morsey. 15% of the vote is actually going to other candidates. I am going to go ahead and check on the North Carolina primary for North Carolina 5. D.D. Adams is winning 53.5% of the vote, while Janie Marshall is getting 46.5% of the vote. Don't worry, guys, Blankenship will simply remove his competition from existence. Why is Blankenship becoming a meme?
It's gonna feel like it's gonna be a big one.
I might get Backstar in our coverage. Okay. I'm going to Tactical Monkey. I'm going to call through the IZC channel, so answer through there.
All right.
Yo.
Hey, what's going on, Backstar?
I was just saying the North Carolina primary down in the 50s.
D.D. Adams is winning 53.5% to 46.5%.
It's too close.
That is with 47% of the vote in. 124 out of 263 precincts in North Carolina 5.
Go to the State Board of Elections.
All right.
Shit. Excuse me.
You having fun there?
I'm getting stressed out now.
Why?
It's my candidate is not winning.
All right. Tactical Monkey, are you in here?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, we got the entire group in here.
Yo, have you heard from those counties? You have. What's the result with them?
Wait, which one?
I'm talking to someone.
Oh, okay. Just go and push to talk or something like that if you're going to be making noise. Okay, so let's see what's going on in North Carolina State Board of Elections.
I honestly did not expect this race to be this close.
Okay, so North Carolina 5 State Board of Elections, D.D. Adams is winning with 53.85% of the vote, while Jenny Marshall is winning with 46.15% of the vote. I'm going to go ahead and view contest details.
Is there an option where you can see the map of the district?
Yeah, I'll pull it up on the live stream now. What is your county, if you're comfortable with saying that on the live stream?
Forsyth County.
Huh?
Forsyth County. Now, you see all that orange on there?
Yeah, that's all orange.
That's mainly rural part.
Yeah.
And that part typically votes Republican.
Oh, you're in Forsyth?
Forsyth. And if you look at the little gray county, that's actually probably the biggest county on this district.
Actually, Wilkes County actually looks bigger. All 28 precincts have actually reported in.
But the
Jenny Marshall is actually one in Wilkes County. D.D. Adams.
I mean big. I don't mean by size. I mean population-wise. It's more people in Forsyth County than in any other county.
Forsyth County. D.D. Adams is actually winning your district.
Yeah, I know she's gonna win this county.
Yeah, she's winning your county by a lot. Joe Manchin. I think Joe Manchin is Ohio. No, that's West Virginia. Joe Manchin has already been called the winner for the Democratic primary with almost 70% of the vote. Very good numbers for Joe Manchin.
Now, what about for Blankenship and the rest of those fellas? Has it been called?
No, it's most likely going to go into a runoff, but Blankenship is going to be holding about 20% of the vote because of and so he's going to be, Blankenship is actually going to be holding 20% of the vote, so he's going to be forcing West Virginia Republican voters to go to the polls a second time to vote in Morrissey or Jenkins.
And when will that be?
Sometime in June, in between now and September, before the November election. I'm gonna go ahead and call the live stream IZC politics
now,
election coverage.
Damn. You know, I was actually today. There was the precincts were looking good.
Dalton is saying, just wait until the remaining 65% of the electorate comes out in full force for Blankenship.
Well, if that happens, and Joe Manchin's gonna win.
Oh yeah.
Now, what's going on up in New York?
There's no elections going on in New York tonight.
I know, but one of their primaries.
S. Axel said, it's sad that Blankenship's racism couldn't get him the votes. Maybe being Trumpier than Trump isn't enough?
I mean, come on, you got up here and you said China people.
Yeah, you did. He's retarded.
And then he got up here and say, I didn't say a race. Races are Negroes, white Caucasian. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? See, that's that. I mean, how stupid can you be?
Cocaine bitch.
There's a lot of people watching tonight. I had about almost 15 people watching at one time.
Now my computer wants to be stupid.
Okay, I just had to mess with the volume there. Guys, I just wanted to put a quick reminder in here. I know most of this is just election coverage, but please come and subscribe to my channel, guys, if you are new to this channel. I'm going to be doing election coverage a lot over the next year, especially to try and cover the midterm elections, which is going to be held on November 6th, 2018. So guys, catch it right here on Politics Gaming if you guys want to see our election coverage then and there. Please go follow me on Patreon, guys, if you want to support me, and then, you know, you can also sponsor my channel, or you can just do a quick super chat to help and support me. But other than that, what we are looking at right now is that the Republican primary for the West Virginia Senate race is in a direct standstill. A lot of people, we have 2 counties that are actually voting for Don Blankenship. Rowan County has gone 28% in favor of Don Blankenship, and then 32% of Clay County, which actually only 80 votes have actually gone in favor of Don Blankenship. And then Joe Manchin, the incumbent U.S. Senator for the Democratic primary, has won the Democratic primary. Joe Manchin has won the Democratic primary with almost 70% of the vote, against Paula Jean's 30.5% of the vote.
PG, I encourage you to keep on watching the 5th District. I actually have to run.
Alright, we can see you later. Virginia Fox has actually won North Carolina 5.
That was no surprise there, and I hope we can beat her, and I hope I can be the one to say Virginia Fox has lost for re-election.
Yeah, New York Times has 53.5% of the vote going to D.D. Adams, while Jenny Marshall is only getting away with 46.5% of the vote.
It's close.
That is 40. That is 40%. No, that's actually way out of the margin of error. The margin of error is about 3 points. That is actually separated by 7 points. That's actually 7-point difference. So D.D. Adams actually has a very healthy margin, in
So
North
why
Carolina
have so
5.
if it, so they should call it right now.
They
Well,
shouldn't call it because I mean, like if DD Adams is actually winning by maybe 60-70%, yeah, I mean they would have called it by then. But with that I mean, like if she was winning by what Virginia Fox is winning by, yeah, they would call it. But like 53% of the vote, you're not going to call it then. But that is still a healthy margin.
All right, I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.
All right, see ya. Tactical Monkey, you still there? Oh, he actually stepped away. I didn't notice. Clay County will only feel pain and wrath if God Emperor Blankenship takes revenge on the people who stood against him. Oh my God. You guys. You guys are just really wanting Don Blankenship. I'm gonna get you guys a little something special. I'm going to get a little present for you guys, just so you guys can see. Oh my God. I'm gonna get something on the live stream for you. Hang on here. You guys are gonna love this. Gonna go over here, insert.
Alright, I'm back.
Alright, welcome back, dude. I'm just adding a little bit of a present for our lovely little subscribers.
Alright.
It's gonna add a little bit of a Don Blankenship to the page. Alright, guys. You guys are just joining in. We are covering the West Virginia primaries with Don Blankenship leading in our minds, at least. Don Blankenship is leading 35% of the vote. So that is very, very good. Oh, thank you so much for subscribing us, Axel. I don't know why it's not showing up. Oops. Alright, I might have to...
Technical difficulties?
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties right there. GOP nightmare looms in West Virginia, the Hill. God, Blankenship is just the cringiest candidate I have ever seen. Hang on, I am actually going to replace my scene 2 with something. Hang on. Let's see if we can get this. Alright. We finally got that. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave this on the thing. There we go. Alright, so we are looking at the results now. Patrick Morrissey is only winning now by 35% in the Republican primary for West Virginia. 28% of the vote is going toward Evan Jenkins, and then Don Blankenship is getting 20.1% of the vote. So that is a very, very good for Don Blankenship. Oh my god. This is going... Okay, so, PoliticsGaming is officially going to be Don Blankenship's fan channel. I'm gonna make like a romantic video for Don Blankenship.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It's like,
Probably. Probably reach out to him.
I'm gonna post it to his Twitter.
Get him over here on an interview, maybe.
Yeah, let's
have a little collaboration.
IZC politics interviews Don Blankenship.
How about this? One of our goals is going to be to get Don Blankenship on our podcast.
Oh my god, that would be hilarious.
Right here and now, can we agree to this? That one of our goals, no matter when, no matter how, we got to get this guy on our podcast.
Who was it? Dalton actually tagged me in on Twitter. With here's the article. I think Robert White is talking about Saudi Arabia confirmed its nuclear program after quietly meeting with U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry. Rick Perry was obviously the governor of Texas before he was actually selected to run the Department of Energy by President Donald Trump. My opponent Joe Manchin said I have not committed identity theft, but as you can clearly see, my double chin outranks them. Don Blankenship. Hang on, I'm gonna make it a little more memey. There we go. Alright, this stream is beautiful right now.
Yeah, this guy, it's a must to get him on here.
We need to get Don Blankenship. Oh my god.
I don't know, he looks a little bit like Stalin.
He kinda does.
Looks a little Russian to me.
West Virginia looks like a middle finger. Kinda does. Alright, Evan Jenkins is stealing Kanawha County with 31.2% of the vote. That is what's going on there. Alright, let's go ahead and see what's going on in Ohio. Ohio seems to be pretty solid. Republican primary in Ohio for the Senate is going to go into a runoff. However, a lot of House elections are actually being called, except for Ohio 9. And along with Ohio 12 and Ohio 12 special election. And then there's a special election going on. Danny O'Connor is facing off. Looks like that's going to go on into another special election. Blah 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 blah. Oh, we actually have a little bit of news coming out of Ohio. Listen to this. This is actually a not referendum, I forgot what you call it. This is a something in Ohio that the people of Ohio actually voted on. Voters will decide whether to approve a series of changes to congressional redistricting that receive bipartisan support. And that is actually passed by 73.7%. That is very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Where's the Ohio gubernatorial race? Oh, there it is. Yeah, both the Democratic and Republican. Richard Cordray has actually gotten away with 62% of the vote, with 39% of the vote in. And Mike DeWine has actually gotten away with 60% of the vote, with 39% of the vote in. So that is actually good. For both of those, they are going to try and win the election. As for turnout on both sides of the aisle, 404,000 for the Republicans have actually voted in that election, and 301 Democrats have actually voted. 301,000 Democrats have actually voted for the Democratic primary. So,
Yeah, we have the numbers slightly favoring the Republican side here.
And it looks like the lead for D.D. Adams. I'm going to stop memeing for a second and actually transition back to our North Carolina 5 race. North Carolina 5 is actually the Democratic race in that area. 18,000 votes cast. D.D. Adams is almost leading with 55% of the vote margin. It looks like D.D. Adams is going to be winning this election in North Carolina 5. Those are no other races I really want to concentrate on. So, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it in for this election coverage tonight. So we can really get a general aspect of what's going on. So I'm actually going to change something before I actually call this live stream in. So okay, so that's good. Hang on. Trying to fix a couple things because I was memeing around with Don Blankenship. That was actually hilarious, though. And guys, if you guys actually want to see more of our coverage and more of our coverage on the news in general, me and Tactical Monkey, and along with possibly Backstar, we are going to be starting a politics, for one, podcast and two, website. So guys, if you want to see news coming out, I will actually be advertising that stuff on my channel. So guys, if you want to see that, go ahead and see it here first. Thank you guys for subscribing to me. If you guys have not subscribed to me, please subscribe to me right now. And then go to my Patreon. Go support me on Patreon. That would be amazing. And other than that, some of the takeaways we can actually get from this. Republicans are very mixed in West Virginia, in the state of West Virginia. However, the lead for Evan Jenkins has actually expanded to actually start competing against Morzey. He's now within a 4-point margin from Patrick Morzey to try and lead in this Republican primary. Joe Manchin, the incumbent in West Virginia, has won with 69.5% of the vote. That is with 46% of the vote in. Turnout in the Senate race for West Virginia is very healthy for the Democrats. 92,000 votes cast to 71,000 for the Republicans. So Don Blankenship's bid to try to become the U.S. Senator for the Republican Party in West Virginia has failed. Unfortunately for Don Blankenship, he is not going to be able to represent the Republicans in this race for the 2018 in the 2018 Senate race. So that is very unfortunate for Don Blankenship, only getting away with 20.1% of the vote. As for everything else, we have races going on in the West Virginia State Senate and House of Delegates, and those we are not really going to concentrate on until the election actually comes around, so we can see in what direction the state legislature will actually go in. I'm not really concentrating on House elections going on in West Virginia. Nothing really new there. However, 3 Democratic races have not been called. One of them is actually a very healthy margin for Tally Sargent, 65% of the vote. However, they are not calling it because only 30% of the vote has been called. So, with that, we can go to Indiana. Indiana is a very interesting race. Actually, Mike Braun has actually been called the winner of the Indiana primary. I thought I was going to go into I thought the Republican primary was actually going to go into what do you call it, a special election for the Republicans because they did not get above, what do you call it, 51%. However, Mike Braun is going to be representing the Republican Party. He's going to be the Republican nominee to face off against Joe Donnelly this November for the U.S. Senate seat. House districts, the only race I really wanted to look at, which I actually found this out, Greg Pence has won with 65.3% of the vote in the state of Indiana for Indiana 6. So he's going to be facing off against Janine Lake, who won with 38% of the vote for the Democratic, for that primary. However, Indiana 7 is actually very difficult because only 36.6% of people actually voted for everyone else except for the top guy who actually got the most votes. Other than that, in Ohio, we're definitely going to be looking at the Senate race. Obviously, James B. Renacci has been called the winner by the New York Times with 45.1% of the vote. He's going to be facing off against Sherrod Brown. So those two will be facing off against each other in November. So, and then for the governor race, Richard Cordray is going to be facing off against Mike DeWine. Richard Cordray has actually received the endorsements of Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Those are two very prominent senators in the U.S. Senate. So that's very, very interesting. No House races. Actually, I think I know someone in Ohio 5. Nothing I really want to concentrate on in there. And then North Carolina, we're going to check on North Carolina 5. No declared winner as of yet in North Carolina 5. However, D.D. Adams is winning by almost 1,300 votes from what it looks like. 46.5% for Jenny Marshall and 53.5% for D.D. Adams. Other than that, guys, I want to go ahead and say goodbye. And this was a very fun election coverage. I will see you guys in the next one, whenever we're going to cover more election, possibly around the Pennsylvania primaries or the Texas special election once that comes around. So guys, if you guys enjoy this, go ahead and support me on Patreon. Please super chat me if you can, and subscribe to my channel. Obviously, guys, if you are new to my channel, we are racing to get 1,300 subscribers. So guys, if you want to help me get there, please do so. So guys, if you like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.